Welcome to Me to NLP Connect. We created this channel to open spaces for showcasing groundbreaking ideas in the field of natural language processing. My name is Mita Kokal, and together with my colleague from Me to NLP Connect, Rushen Birben, I will be moderating today's discussion. Our guest today is Alba Mustafaj. Alba is a software engineer and a hiring bar raiser at Amazon Luxembourg for 7 years. She's originally from Albania, and she studied computer science and engineering at Bilkent University. Alba created and leads for 5 years a university bootcamp and a mentorship program that is impacting students globally. As an active member of Amazon Women in Engineering, she focuses not only on external outreach activities and supporting women who want to pursue a career in tech, but also bringing Hour of Code to local schools in Luxembourg for children of ages 6 to 18. She also leads cooperations and partnerships at Women in Tech Luxembourg. With almost a decade-long passion for emotional intelligence, Alba is an EQ champion and speaker at Amazon. She co-hosted Amazon Luxembourg's first EQ session, opened to all Amazon roles and levels. Alba is a speaker on mentorship, presenting at conferences like Awesome and Elevate Your Career. Her work in this area earned her 2 Technology All-Star Awards, STEM Outreach Champion and Bridge Builder Award. Alba is supporting EQ awareness and providing guidance to help early career professionals develop both technical skills and emotional intelligence for long-term success. So Alba, welcome. We are so happy to host you.
Thank you very much. I'm also very happy to be here today, and I'm very passionate about supporting the next generation of students, so I look forward to this interview.
So first, I would like to ask you 2 more personal questions. So what first drew you into computer science, and was there a defining moment where you knew that this was your path?
Yeah, so as a child, I was very fascinated about the human brain, and I always thought I was going to study medicine until high school, where me and a friend, we developed a website about the human brain, and that was where I started learning programming. And I thought there's a lot of things I can do with programming, actually. I could contribute to a lot of fields, including healthcare and many more. So after that experience, my focus shifted completely to computer science. And on my last year of high school, I did the SAT exam. I applied to Bilkent University, and yeah, I decided to pursue it.
So exciting. So if you could go back to your university self, is there something that you would unlearn?
Yeah, I think I would stop trying to score maximum on all the exams and trying to do great on every subject. Especially at Bilken, there was a big competition, and a lot of subjects were curve-based, so the grade would be decided on the average, or there was a system for the curve. And I would not focus only on my, those department classes, but I would explore more topics of my interest. I eventually did explore that later on, but I would encourage everyone who's studying now to hear your inner voice. And if you're curious about something, explore that and don't worry about scoring maximum on all the subjects.
That's such a good advice for future generations. So now I would like to pose a few questions about hiring system through Amazon lens. And so you are a hiring bar raiser. So what does the hiring bar raiser actually do at Amazon?
Yes, so every interview loop at Amazon has interviewers, which to the candidate, everyone is an equal interviewer. But the role of the hiring bar raiser, apart from being just another interviewer on the loop, is the one that actually make sure we're making the best hiring decision. So it's the one that takes the assessment of every interview and makes sure that the candidate is being evaluated correctly against the Amazon bar. So if you read as well, if you just Google it, you will see that raising the bar means being better than 50% of the people that are already at that role. So the bar raiser is the one that aligns with the hiring manager and makes the call eventually if the candidate is going to be hired or not.
So how do you then evaluate reasoning transparency, and not just correctness of answers?
Yeah, so on technical questions, I will say it up front. If I want to hear how you're thinking, I will say it. And usually I do want to hear everything. It really depends also on the nature. For example, on the design questions, it is essential that you explain and not just draw the boxes and the arrows. But I would also ask follow-up questions. And in normal coding problems, I would ask for you to walk me through an example. And um, I do understand that candidates want to have the best working solution, but I also encourage them to have, if they have a brute force, to first implement that. And I want to hear through the process. It's important to have a working solution, but sometimes you get stuck on trying to find the perfect one while you can get it working and then you can optimize and choose the right data structures. And it's also important for me that a candidate gets the hints. On the non-technical questions, I would ask follow-up questions. So we have maybe I can also share this as a resource. There's this technique called the STAR format. So what is the situation, task, action, and result? So we do encourage students to follow, everyone actually that interviews to follow this. So if you're asked a question, you can start describing what was the situation, what is the action you took, and what was the result. So I would ask the candidate to elaborate on decisions that they took rather than just, mention everything as they have learned it by heart or have prepared for the interview.
So what does, in your opinion, separate just a good engineer from someone that you would strongly advocate for?
Um, so there's this, at Amazon, we have this leadership principle called ownership. And I think that for at least for me, I can only advocate for my opinions. I think having that sense of ownership and taking action makes a difference. So, saying, okay, I did my tasks, I completed them, I'm so good at this, that's nice. But being proactive to support the team, to support even leadership, I don't know, your manager and the higher leadership as well to solve the problems if you have context, help them get unblocked or thinking out of the box. I think that's what makes the difference. And it will also make you the go-to person.
So do you see can a lot of candidates optimizing for interview formats instead of showing real problem-solving capacities?
Um, so yes, and that's okay. The interview process is designed in a certain way, and I would encourage students to prepare well for the interviews. There should be a balance of having good soft skills and technical skills as well. But also the ability to do well in the interviews is very important. I personally have seen it even as a student. I've seen it as the stepping stone. So yes, please do prepare for the interviews.
So what now is one assumption about hiring or engineering that you think it's outdated now?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2019 from Bilkent, and at the time I had two internship. Well, we had two mandatory internships. I had a few certifications as well. But I do remember that there was not a push or a need to have any hands-on experience or skills before your first job because it's your first job. But we're now seeing more and more how AI is helping us with our speed, with our deliverables, with everything basically, even non-tech um, folks are able to build technical solutions. So I would encourage students that, any program or any opportunity that you find in the space that you would like to explore, get that experience. And this is also partially why I founded the university engagement program. So for students to have something that's outside their curriculum, especially in developing countries like my own, Albania, where I come from. So,
Mhm.
entry level, what has changed is that entry level is not so entry level anymore. That's how I see it.
So now going a little bit to communication as a technical skill. So in engineering teams, how critical is precise communication
Mhm.
compared to raw technical engineering skills?
I think they're both very important, but the technical ability cannot live alone without the communication skills, especially as you go higher up in your career. Clear communication starting, with your teammates, but especially with the leadership, where you do have to speak the leadership language. It's very important. At Amazon, but also other companies that I've seen, whether you are interning or whether you are full-time, you are responsible for your project and you have to be very clear on timelines, what you commit, when you hit the blockers, how do you reach out for support, how do you evaluate different options before seeking support. And one of the misconceptions of students is that if they reach out for help, it means that they're not doing good enough. But if you evaluated several options and you go to your mentor at work or your manager saying that, hey, I'm blocked and I need support because 1, 2, 3 didn't work, that's actually totally fine.
So what do you think are these communicational failures that most commonly lead to poor technical outcomes?
Mm, I think there is a few. So one is failing to give project updates. So this is an interesting one because it depends on the nature of the team or the organization you're in. But I really like having this I call weekly flash report. And I encourage everyone, whether you're studying, doing internship, so keep a similar document. Now we have AI, so we have our knowledge base, and you practically just update that progress week to week. And I think this is also very important uh, at work. Another thing is overcommitting. I've noticed this throughout the years that engineers think that they can get a lot of things done in a very little time. And luckily we have AI now, so it does a lot of things for us. But there's also a risk of overcommitting. There's another thing as well of not treating blockers as blockers. So, for instance, projects can get delayed because no one ever communicated that there was a blocker that we could have solved if it was already called out. So, not calling out if there's an ambiguity of lack of clarity really can impact your timeline. It might put it at risk. And this is, yeah, it's if you have a blocker, treat it as a blocker and don't skip it. And another thing that I really like to sometimes philosophize a little bit because I also am passionate about emotional intelligence is the ability how people handle disagreements. Basically, how do you there's two things. So one is lack of pushing back. So I've noticed that there's folks in more junior roles that tend to speak out less because if they have a different view on a project that's being led by someone that's more senior, they might be a bit intimidated on sharing it. So I think having diverse perspectives will help have that 360 degree review of the project. And the other side of it, so when there is a lack of pushing back politely, so when there's, a lot of brilliant minds come together for a, I don't know, common cause, you should know how to communicate effectively and focus on keeping the disagreement purely technical rather than escalating outside of the professional scope. Yeah, so don't let disagreements get personal.
So do you think that engineers should be more trained in how to express their reasoning, not just produce it?
Yes, definitely. So one of the main areas on disagreement is, as I was mentioning, is how to have a productive kind. So there's this concept of generative disagreement and destructive disagreement. So basically, A generative disagreement is when there's a task conflict and you treat it as such. So if there's any tension, it would be intellectual. If you're challenging, it would be challenging the idea. You're supporting the common goal. You will be going from, I don't understand the thinking. However, if there's a destructive disagreement, it would go more towards, relationship conflict. So the tension will become emotional. You would then attack the person with a more aggressive tone and saying things like that's a dumb idea. So yeah, it is definitely an area, and we do this kind of trainings a lot. Not only internally but also externally regarding handling disagreements.
So this is the future, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the human factor.
yeah. So now going a little bit to the mentorship programs. You have led a global mentorship program for 5 years. So how do you design system that scale without losing quality?
Yeah, maybe I can briefly describe the program as well, so that the
Mhm.
listeners have more context, and we also welcome them to join in
Mhm.
the next cohorts if they would prefer. So we run a program which is a 3-day bootcamp in 3 tracks. So we have software engineering, machine learning, and business intelligence this year. We used to have program management, but now we're fully technical. And after that, we give time to students about 2 weeks to form groups. So we used to have a small, we were small. We had one university. We started with one, and now we're in 14 countries. And in those 2 weeks, students can form groups of 3 to 5. They come to us with a project proposal, and then we assign mentors from Amazon, and they work with them over the summer. So this year, for instance, from 16th of June until end of August, and sometime in September, we will have the closing ceremonies. And we do this every year. And the goal of the program is to
Mhm.
support students transition from academia to industry, right? For them to have some, for example, the tech tracks are all in AWS. So for them to have some hands-on skill, also the project, it's a free program. So the goal is for you to have something to stand out, or even there's students that develop them later into startup ideas. And yeah, so we didn't scale immediately. It took us 2 years. So two of the iterations of the program, it took us to find the best way to scale. And one of the main drivers for the scale was um, the student feedback. So even today, we don't compromise on the quality of the workshops only for the sake of scaling. For example, today we have some workshops for which we cannot have more than 200 attendees in DevOps. And although we have uh, from last year and this year, we have around 800 students that attend the bootcamp. That particular workshop is for sure only 200 to make sure that we have good quality of interactions. And the key is to know what you are delivering. So, what do you need exactly to scale? In the case of our program, it has been more the human support. So, basically, more mentors, more lecturers, more breakout room facilitators. And the way I started this scaling was creating a core team. We call it a core team. So that has in it country leads or university leads or track leads. So each of them has a dedicated responsibility. And yeah, we replicate this model with every university that we onboard.
It's quite a project, it looks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so do you observe any kind of patterns across mentees from different regions?
Yeah, so actually, for all the students that join, and especially those that make it, because this is a summer long, it starts, I mean, we started end of May with a boot camp, and then until mid-September when we do the presentations, it's a summer long project. So for all the students who join, we've seen they're all super eager to learn more and, to collaborate, to know what are students across the world doing. So this is something they have in common. I've also noticed that students from different countries and different universities have different mindset about transitioning from academia to industry. Some feel more well prepared. Some haven't actually practiced lead code before, or soft skill questions, or are not very aware what it means to work at a big tech just because it might not be available in their home countries. And for instance, for countries like my own, in Albania, students sometimes seem to believe that it's not easy at all to get a position in a big tech company simply because there is none, and they don't may not have many connections in those companies. So I'm very happy that we're reaching out to those students as well. That we're showing that no matter what, uh, university or where you come from, it only matters that you get the right skills, you prepare for the interviews, and you have something to stand out on your CV, and you will make it, like the rest of us that are now giving back to the next generations.
So how can someone find the right mentor, not just any mentor?
Hmm. So I would say do not be very worried about this. If you really, I mean, there's two cases. If you really know what you're looking for and then you want specific advice, for instance, there was a time when I wanted like specific guidance on whether to do masters or to work for a big tech. So this is also not so specific, but in any case, if you know what you're looking for, it's a bit easier because you can find someone, for instance, who's a software engineer or someone who is in academia, and then you have XYZ questions, and then they will answer you. But I think mentorship is a more dynamic experience. So if it might take time for you to find the right mentor. And I would encourage you to explore speaking to several people. I've personally done it as well. There were times when I had different mentors for different skills. For example, I had a mentor that was a very good senior engineer some years ago. And then I also had one that was a manager. And aside of that, I also have I call it my life mentor. His name is Erkal Buyekolu. He's my mentor from when I was studying in Bilkent University. And he was one of the Bilkent graduates in the very first cohorts of Bilkent itself. Bilkent is not such an old university. So yeah, he decided to support that there was a mentorship initiative by our department. He decided to support that, and that's how I was connected with him. And it's been very important throughout my life. So helping me navigate choosing masters or working at big tech, then helping with, he calls it uh, going from A to B and then B to C. So there's always changes in the professional life. So I would say be open to have several mentors, and they can change throughout your life based on what you're looking for.
So you already answered this question, but maybe once again, what makes a mentor truly impactful, not just informative?
Mm, I think you will know. It's a personal experience because it has happened to me as well that a few years ago I wanted to upskill in certain areas, and the method that one of my mentors was choosing was not something that I was liking. So then I would find myself going to the mentorship meetings being not knowing what to say, going to a meeting when you're not prepared, or like going to an interview. So yeah, I think as I said, maybe just try to explore uh different styles of different people and choose the one that works for you. And I would say it's also totally fine. We call it speed mentoring. So if you want something informative, you can have a shorter term mentorship relationship, and that is totally okay.
So this was from my section, and thank you
Yes,
so much.
Thank you.
yes, I will be leading the second session.
Mhm.
So you've mentioned that you've been passionate about emotional intelligence, EQ for short, for nearly a decade. We're curious, like, what triggered it exactly, your passion for emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I think as a child, I didn't know at the time what emotional intelligence was. But as a child, I've had this sense of empathy or this curiosity to see things from different point of view. So I would find myself even as a child thinking, oh, but how is that person thinking of this? Or, in math, I used to go to math Olympiads. It was very popular in my country. I think it still is, but there were different ways to solve geometry problems. So I was thinking, but then how do I think of something in a different way? And then as I grew up and became, well, in during teenage years and then more mature, it developed more into this emotional intelligence, um, more dimensions of it basically. And I realized, and as well during my professional life, I realized that uh, it's very important to be emotionally intelligent and know how to manage yourself first before taking any other decision. I do have to say that while I was a student, I learned about a theory that was called the law of attraction. I don't know if, do you know about it?
Mhm.
Have you
Yes,
heard
I've
about it?
heard of it. Yeah.
Yes. So this was basically that there was also a saying, I think from Alan Watts, as within, so without. So the way you feel inside, that's how the world you see outside manifests. Yeah,
Yes.
manifestation. So as a teenager as well, and during my university years, I really believed in that. So I was focusing on feeling good and like expanding my feel good uh moment
Philosophy. Yeah.
and triggers exactly because I wanted my reality to be good as well. And eventually, of course, I grew up and then things changed. But I think that was another point of me realizing how important emotional intelligence is. And I know EQ has nothing to do with law of attraction, but I do recall it as a part where I got to grow my emotional intelligence because of that belief as a teenager. I mean, and it doesn't hurt anyone, right? If you think positively, you might as well continue doing so.
Yes. So, do you think that emotional intelligence makes a programmer better?
Yeah, I do think so. We were discussing this a bit earlier as well, but basically being someone that promotes this psychological safety, whether at work or at school or even at home, it's very important. For example, things like seeing mistakes you might make as opportunities to learn rather than beating yourself about it, or willing to take risks and still fail, or just sharing your thoughts in meetings, sharing your struggles as well with your projects, and trusting in your teammates and managers. And I think this is important for your productivity overall because so basically this thing that I just mentioned, there's a research. I don't know if you know Adam Grant, but he speaks. Yeah, he's an author, a speaker on EQ, and in his research, individuals with these kind of qualities make what we call fearless teams. So otherwise, if you keep your ideas to yourself, if you're hesitant, if you're fearful, maybe it's a big word, but like if you fear the reaction of your teammates and managers, you'd be falling under the category of anxious teams. So that could also, hinder your productivity. So definitely, it's important for your productivity.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, in your observation, in technical environments, especially, what does lack of emotional intelligence create as a friction?
Yeah, so uh, going back to what I mentioned about handling disagreement, so I think EQ is very important for innovation. If you always try to push for your idea, even if you're right, you have to find the right way to communicate it. We've all been there. We've all had these group projects in our university when we try to push forward our idea, or for some reason someone is not contributing enough, or for whatever reason, and it
Yeah.
becomes a big deal. So I know what I will say might sound very spiritual, but always being led by your ego, I believe is not the right approach because there's so many smart folks out there. And yeah, sometimes what makes the difference is just being empathetic and creating the safe space and letting everyone express their opinions. It doesn't make it doesn't make us less, our ideas less valuable.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. So I want to talk about future a bit, especially related to AI. So right now we have been actually seeing a big shift in how we are working with AI. So do you think that future engineers will be evaluated more on thinking and communicating rather than execution, now that AI is pretty much capable of executing?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know because things are changing very rapidly. At the moment, with the I don't know what Claude is going to launch next. I'm joking, but jokes aside, I don't think at the moment that one will be significantly more important than the other because for us, at least at Amazon, execution is key. Deliver results and insisting. We also have a leadership principle called insist on high standards. So that's a key leadership principle at Amazon. And well, unless AI really excels at it, I wouldn't say that, the latter would completely not be important. What I do think is that, the ability to gain new skills, so the ability to automate repetitive tasks, the ability to ramp up quick in a new environment is what will make the difference. Because with the use of AI, the ramp up time decreases significantly. So there might be, you know, a new notion of what standing out means. If before standing out would mean ramp up quick, but with some support. Now, a lot of things are changing. As you said, AI is going to do a lot of things for us. So that notion might change. I don't know what the exact shape of it would look like, but for now, I think both are important.
So we still need to execute right now.
Yes,
So yeah,
definitely.
based on it, how do you see AI changing technical hiring in the maybe next 5 or 10 years? How should
Mm,
engineers adapt to a world where knowledge is increasingly externalized? So you need to know less and less because AI is already able to provide you
yeah.
with the answer.
Yeah, so I think 5 to 10 years is a very long time to think about because I started my career at Amazon 7 years ago, and 7 years ago I didn't know we were gonna be here today. So it is crazy. But what I can say is that maybe in the near future, the entry level, I think I mentioned a bit as well earlier, the entry level notion will change. I mean, it already is, but the AI fluency is now a competency that is being assessed by tech companies. I don't know if you're aware, but AI fluency was not a competency that was being tested in interviews. So started from there. And while before it wasn't mandatory that you know how to productionalize a project or in certain area, that bar now is increasing. Sometimes even for entry level jobs they require, okay, even before I have read things like having 3+ years of experience with C# and things like that, but now I think it's a whole different area. And that means we all need to upscale in this space in a fast pace.
Yes. So on another note, if you had to define engineering excellence in one sentence today, what would it include? I assume it would include adaptation, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if this sentence will be there next month, but I think exactly as you say. So for sure, um, shipping code that would work correctly, you test it enough that others can make changes. So that what you said, adapting, so being logical and maintainable, and uh, I think it's still important to be owned by someone who notices when it breaks. At the moment, it might change. It might change, but for now, I think this three is important. So having code that uh, works, basically, you have tested it and it's easy to make changes on, and is owned by either you or someone that knows when it breaks, so and can take care of it.
Okay. Really practical answer. So, you have spoken at conferences like Awesome and Elevate Your Career. What message resonates most with the audience in those conferences?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a bit of philosophy here.
Okay.
But so I think that people that have attended my sessions, from EQ ones to more technical ones, I think they're looking to find perspectives either on areas that they have certain questions on or discover completely new things that they don't know about. So whenever I tailor a session, I think, what does the audience really want to hear? And, in EQ, emotional intelligence, we have these building blocks of it. So there is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. And something I've seen resonate a lot is the concept of finding ways to feel initially at peace with yourself. So having, the self-awareness and self-management, and then everything else will eventually fall into its own place. Because whether you're a student or whether you're at a later stage in your life or career, where you eventually will face different challenges and duties as well in your professional life, at some point you will also need to manage people. But what remains is that self-awareness and self-management always as the key before everything else.
Yes, real wisdom. So, out of all your recognitions, Technology All Star, STEM Outreach Champion, and Bridge Builder, which one felt the most meaningful and why?
They're all very special for me. They all have motivated me even more to bring um, mm, to scale education initiatives to reach countries that are still in development. Maybe I would say the bridge builder one was very important because it made me retrospectively think how I had moved from Albania to two other countries by the age of 22. And then in that second country, I managed to build bridges between the company I was working on and that country itself while I was an expat. So
Yeah.
it reminded me that if I can do this in a country like Luxembourg, which I am now a citizen of because I did get the passport, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity. But if I can do this outside of my home country, then I'm going to put more effort and do it in my own country, Albania and Kosovo. So I think this had more um, a spiritual significance, I would say, for me.
Yes. So this was my part of the questions. We have now a quick question and answer session. Maybe we can put out in short forms.
Sure.
So, if you had to choose, I know that you will try to stay in the middle, but if you had to choose technical excellence or emotional intelligence, which do you think should come first?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you guessed right
Yeah,
from all the answers
but
I was giving so far.
yeah, but if you had to choose one, like,
I think that because also it depends how you define emotional intelligence. So it's a bit so there's do you know Daniel Goleman? Daniel
unfortunately,
Yeah,
no.
Daniel
I do.
Goleman is I could also maybe share a link after. He is the person that wrote the landmark book in emotional intelligence. It's called Emotional Intelligence. Now they also have the 2.0 version. And there, the emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to recognize and manage your own emotions and work with them for a healthy and positive relationships and also to support your goals. So eventually, what I think is happening is that if you're able to do that, then the technical part will fall into place. But you also have to be self-confident that you can do that. It's a it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. If I must choose something, then it would be EQ because you would have the ability to develop other skills.
Yes, it's a really nice answer, I think. So one habit that's changed your career or your life in general?
Mm, I would say networking. Networking has changed my career a lot. Maybe because also the nature of my work, I was lucky to get a lot of networking done and within and outside the company because I'm also part of other initiatives that are external to my current role. And I think that really helps. Um, it depends what you are looking for, but for me, it has helped find the right opportunities at the right time. So I would really recommend everyone to focus on
Hmm.
networking.
Yes, I've heard somewhere that miracles happen more often as you move around, as you get exposure to different networks. Yeah.
Yes, because you might not know what's out there. You know,
Yes.
I remember there was some, it was a while ago that I was looking for certain type of projects and yeah, I due to my program, I had expanded my network in certain areas, and I reached out and regarding this nature of project, and at first there was nothing like that, but then later on I got reached out back saying that hey, there is now an opportunity. So if I hadn't moved the needle a little bit, then I wouldn't have gotten that project. And that's a small example, but sometimes it can completely change your life.
Yeah, if you don't move, nothing will happen. But if you move, yeah, you may have a chance,
Yeah, and you
right?
don't lose anything. I mean, the worst you will get is either no reply or I don't have capacity or bandwidth now, so you
Yeah.
don't lose much.
Yeah, on to the next question. What do you think is the one mistake that most engineers would repeat?
I think this one, not doing enough networking.
Not doing enough networking. So, what do you think is the primary reason people are not doing networking? They think that they're enough, or it's not something needed, or their technical excellence is enough, or something like that.
I think there are several. One can be not knowing what you don't know, because if we don't know what we don't know, we tend to not look for it.
Hmm.
For me, I know this is also again very philosophical, but for me, I was always thinking, no, there must be something. I don't know what it is, but there is something, so I'm going to check for it. And then another thing can be staying on the same place, being comfortable, especially with certain types of jobs, or it gets easy to be comfortable and not explore. There's the other part where you just mentioned that it's more about personal aspect or viewpoint, but this is something coachable, I think. Um, I come from a computer engineering degree, and I've noticed a lot that we CS students can be very um, closed sometimes in some
Yeah.
aspects, which
Yes.
is it is fine. I think it's coachable, and with the maybe not on the first 1 or 2 years of the career, but eventually as you progress, that changes naturally. So then
Yes.
if you also then with the progress, if you still remain in your isolated bubble, then it becomes more of a either a comfort thing or just not knowing that the grass can be greener on the other side.
Yes. So on to the next question. This is about self-reflection. So, what's the belief about success that you no longer agree with?
Yeah. So one thing is having good grades. I know I mentioned it in the very beginning. So
Yes.
that I really regret. Although even in my generation, I was seeing a lot of examples, of people that were very successful without having that 4.0 GPA. But another thing, apart from the good grades that I no longer associate with success, is also working on something just because it is cool, just because it is maybe the trend, or maybe for whatever reason, working on something that you don't like or love. I think, and from what I've experienced and from what I've seen, is that you really have to love what you do. This is very cliche. Now that I'm saying, I'm remembering how many times I've heard it. I'm just trying to find the words to actually put what I'm thinking. But if otherwise, if you don't do what you love, success, it might be there, but it won't be permanent, because our professional life, trust me, is so much longer than we think. As students, or at least when I was a student, and my friends, we had no idea that our professional life was going to be so long. So it's in our nature that we usually excel when we feel best, even with subjects. If you don't like a subject, it's a nightmare to study. Yes, you will get, I don't know, 85 points, but the pain to study that subject versus a one that you love more is, you feel it. So yeah, it's in our nature to excel where we feel best. So I would say choose accordingly. You can always be very successful in something that's not so popular, but it's your thing.
Yes, I always felt that if we love something truly, then we can actually take the extra step that others are not taking because they do not love it. So that we may be more powerful, not more successful than others in that subject. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
So yeah, these were all of our questions, Alba. Thank you for joining us. Really,
Thank you so much.
it's
Thank
been
you.
a really nice session with you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I wish all the students the very best. Do not hesitate to reach out. If any resources are needed from my side, I'm happy to share. And yeah, good luck to you too as well. Thank you once again.
Thanks. Let's stay connected.